One of André de Toth's greatest talents as a director was an extraordinary instinct for casting. His films often featured actors appearing in unexpected roles that in hindsight appear inspired, as though de Toth saw gold in them that no one else had bothered to mine. For example, dancer Gene Nelson here makes his only detour into Noir. This is a guy who got his start in show business because he idolized Fred Astaire.
One of those men again. Say it. An ex-con like me. Sure, they're always passing through town, trying to put the bite on me for this or that. I told you how it'd be.
And I didn't mind, did I? I love you.
He made Crime Wave between starring roles in pictures like Painting with the Clouds with Sunshine and She's Back on Broadway. As his wife, de Toth cast relative newcomer Phyllis Kirk, who'd been playing small supporting roles in musicals and comedies since 1950. His plan was to surround this naturally appealing couple with a bunch of naturally unappealing crooks, namely Doc Penny, the brains of the outfit, a.k.a. Ted DeCorsia, one of the premier character actors in Noir.
Think about that wife of yours, Steve. You can't afford to make any mistakes.
Looks like a guy who spent his lifetime in boxing gyms and bookie joints, and maybe a few post office walls. But DeCorsia was on stage from the time he could walk, being the son of vaudevillians. He was in demand as a radio actor during the 1930s and 40s, playing an amazing range of roles thanks to his facility with dozens of dialects. But of course, with a mug like that, he was typecast pretty quickly when he got to Hollywood. He brought oily menace to his movie debut, Orson Welles' The Lady from Shanghai, and the die was immediately cast. You could smell the sweat and hair cream on this guy in The Naked City, The Enforcer, Slightly Scarlet, and The Killing. Now, Penny's henchman, Ben Hastings, a.k.a. Charles Buczynski, alias Charles Bronson. When he signed on for Crime Wave in 1952, Buczynski didn't even have a credited role in a movie yet, so you could say that de Toth discovered him, although I doubt the director could have imagined that Buczynski would eventually become, 20 years later, the biggest box office star in the world. In this film, Buczynski gets the best line of his young career. "You want I should clip a curl off the cutie?" De Toth, who was loyal to actors he liked, cast Buczynski in his next film as well, the wonderful 3D horror spectacle House of Wax, also written by Crane Wilbur. Phyllis Kirk would also co-star in that film. In fact, it's the movie that she's most known for. But if de Toth had a favorite in Crime Wave, it was the guy who checked out early, Gat Morgan, a.k.a. Nedrick Young. He'd gotten his start at Warner Brothers, being signed as a threat to replace Humphrey Bogart should the studio's top actor get uppity.
Look, I walked a mile so I wouldn't park a hot car on you. Gotta get patched up.
But Young also did some writing, co-scripting one of the weirdest crime films of the 40s, Monogram's Decoy. He continued to write and act, mostly in B pictures, and first worked for André de Toth in the terrific Gary Cooper Western Springfield Rifle. He also appeared in House of Wax, and it was on the set of that film that Young was served with a subpoena to appear before the HUAC committee. His unfriendly testimony led to Young being blacklisted for the next 5 years. He ended up taking jobs as a junkman, luggage salesman, and bartender. On the latter job, he was making cocktails for a producer at MGM who recalled that Young had, years earlier, submitted a story for Gene Kelly. It was dusted off and revised for Elvis Presley, Jailhouse Rock. Young was given a story credit which encouraged him to return to writing. Under the name Nathan E. Douglas, he won the 1958 Best Screenplay Oscar for co-writing The Defiant Ones, and he accepted the prize under his assumed name. Young would also co-write the script for one of 1960's biggest hits, Stanley Kramer's adaptation of the play Inherit the Wind. Asked that year if he'd ever actually been a communist, Young told an interviewer, "On the day when my answer makes no difference to whether or not I can get work, I'll buy you a drink and tell you. And lastly, I have to mention the appearance, uncredited, of the singularly bizarre Timothy Carey, who's seen terrorizing Phyllis Kirk in later scenes.
I'm Zen, and you are Steve.
He also earned his paycheck taking one of the best tumbles down a staircase I've ever seen. I once asked Andre de Toth about working with Carey. He glared at me with his good eye, the other one was glass behind a patch, and he said, "You cast him to get what he was, crazy." Carey's craziness is truly legendary. But I'll save all that for when we have him back in Noir Alley, in Stanley Kubrick's classic heist thriller, The Killing. Now that's a ways off, but I guarantee it's coming. In the meantime, let us know what you thought of Crime Wave on the Noir Alley Facebook page or on Twitter. And join us back here next weekend for The Clay Pigeon, a dynamite little 63-minute programmer featuring a World War II vet loose in Los Angeles and suffering from film noir's version of the common cold, amnesia. I know I'll see you back here next week because once you've done a stretch in Noir Alley, you're never clean again. You're never free. We've got a string on you and we tug, tug, and tug. And before you know it, you're back again.